Hi everyone, this week's Parsha is Parshat Vayishlach. Now, it's a little cold outside, so I'm going to talk a little quickly, but I heard a very beautiful Dvar Torah this week from my Rabbi Chaim Yegoda, and it's all about the showdown that goes on in this week's Parsha. The showdown in which Yaakov and Esav finally reunite. I know for us it's been like a week in the Parsha, but for them it was a long time in their lives. They're finally reuniting, and Yaakov sends forth these gifts to Esav to ensure that, well, at least Yaakov would think, to ensure his safety, that he's coming in goodwill to come meet his brother Esav. And one of these gifts that he gives over to Esav are these animals. He gives over some animals that he became rich in last week's Parsha. He has these whole flocks of animals now. He gives some over to his brother. And the way the Torah phrases these animals, giving them over, it says Yaakov gave all the animals that were kol habaliyado, that all came to his hand. It's a very strange way to phrase giving over animals to Esav. So what's really going on here? Why is this such strange language? So it actually, the story is very reminiscent of another famous showdown in Tanakh, one that's found in Malachim, the book of Kings, in which Eliyahu and the Nevi'ei Abal, these idol worshippers, Avodah Zarah guys, had this showdown on Har Carmel. And essentially what happened was the Nevi'ei Abal, these Avodah Zarah idol worship guys, were saying, look at how we give a korban, how we give a sacrifice to Hashem. Hashem's going to take our sacrifice and not yours. And then Eliyahu and Navi's like, no, you guys do your stuff, but watch what I do is actually how Hashem wants it. And they do the showdown, and Eliyahu and Navi's korban is taken, his sacrifice is burnt up in flames, and that was good. It showed that Hashem listened to what he said, and Nevi'ei Abal didn't work out so well. So there's a midrash, there's a tale told over by that story, which connects it back to this week's Parsha. And some Mefarshim, some commentators call this midrash a cautionary tale in some ways. Some rabbis really don't like this midrash, but it's interesting nonetheless. And it goes as follows. So by that story as well, it says that Eliyahu Hanavi actually gave over the cow that the Nevi'ei Abal, these idol worshippers, used as their sacrifice. And why did Eliyahu Hanavi have to give over a cow to them? Why didn't they just take their own cow? So essentially what happened is Eliyahu had these cows, according to the midrash, according to the tale, and he said, look, one cow, I'm going to use you to sacrifice to Hashem, and the other one, I'm going to give you over to these idol worshippers, and they're going to give you up to Hashem. And the cows now talk, and this cow that's supposed to go over to the idol worshippers says, hey, no, I'm friends with this other cow, we grew up together, and it's not fair. I want you to give me up to Hashem the right way. Why should I go over there? And Eliyahu Navi says, well, look, long story short, it's regardless of what's going to happen, it's l'shem shamayim. It's in order to sanctify God's name, to show that Hashem is the true God, and this is the true way to serve Hashem. So therefore, you're doing everyone a service, essentially, by going over to these idol worshippers to be part of this showdown. And the cow said, look, that's nice, but that doesn't sound okay to me. I'm not doing it. So essentially what happens over there is according to this tale, is Eliyahu Hanavi picks up the cow and goes and gives them over to the Nevi'ei Abal, to these idol worshippers. So too, we could say that the same thing really happens over in our Parsha this week, right? Yaakov has all these flocks of animals, and these animals probably, look, they could be saying, we want to be used for l'shem shamayim, a good purpose through Yaakov, because Yaakov knew what he was doing. He studied a lot of Torah. He had a good connection with Hashem. It's a good place for the animals to be. But yet, Yaakov said, look, animals, I'm going to give a lot of you over to Esav now as a gift. And the animal said no. But yet, he gave Hakol Habaliyado, all that came through his hand, he gave over to Esav. So the same thing, he picked up the animals and gave them to Esav. So why am I saying any of this? Why does any of this matter? Why am I rambling about animals, talking and deciding where they do or don't want to go? Well, essentially, this really epitomizes Yaakov's life. Yaakov's life is multiple tales of Yaakov going through places where he really doesn't want to be. both physically and circumstantially, in places where he doesn't want to be. Yet we see that in all the situations Yaakov is put in, he has this mindset that he's being put there so that he could be Mekadesh Shem Shemayim, that he could sanctify God's name wherever he is. And this is a very beautiful lesson for all of us. And my bracha to everyone this week is that sometimes we could think like the animals and say, I don't want to be put in this bad situation. It's not going to be as conducive for me as if I were somewhere else. Yet, sometimes we have to do it to sanctify God's name, to be Mekadesh Shem Shemayim. So if we ever find ourselves in these situations, I think we should learn from this week's Parshat, that we should all take the leap forward. And with that, I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom.